This is Rodney King, the tipping point.
The second event was the beating of Rodney King by Los Angeles police on March 3rd, 1991. King was arrested for what was known as felony evading. When California Highway Patrol tried to pull him over, King kept going, and it turned into a high-speed chase involving multiple officers. The officers claimed that King was high and tried to attack them, prompting them to beat him out of self-defense. But video footage of the brutal attack showed King crawling on the ground, unable to get up. The attack left him with a fractured skull and cheekbone. The video showed that nothing about this was self-defense. The man who filmed it from his window, George Holliday, sent the footage to a local television station. Remember, this was before widespread use of the internet or camera phones. Within days, the video was on every major television network, and it sparked outrage. On March 15th, LAPD Sergeant Stacy Kuhn, officers Lawrence Powell, Timothy Wynn, and Theodore Briseño were indicted for assault. The jury was majority white, but the officers were ultimately acquitted on April 29th, 1992, around 3 p.m. By 4:15 p.m., the uprising had started, and by 8:15 p.m., the first fatality was reported on the news. On April 30th, the uprisings moved into Koreatown, a mostly Asian American neighborhood, which ended up sustaining significant damages. The uprisings were mostly stopped on May 2nd, 1992, after the National Guard, members of the military, and the entire LAPD were deployed in South Central LA. By that time, 63 people had been killed, over 2,000 were injured, and 8,000 were arrested. 2 of the officers were eventually sentenced to 30 months in prison for violating Rodney King's civil rights. King received $3.8 million in civil damages from the city of Los Angeles, and Latasha Harlan's family received a $300,000 insurance settlement. But the damage had already been done to the community. Many felt like it was too little, too late.
It's always the same story, ain't it?
Yeah.
He fought back. He resisted arrest. He went for my gun.
We all know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, it is becoming really sickening that if it wasn't for the fact of videotapes, none of this would have. They wouldn't have went to court. Let's just put it that way. Because we're like Thea said, we are supposed to trust the police. If the police are going to this extreme, which that is in air quotes, because if you're on the bad side of thinking that nothing the cops do is an extreme, but if you do deem it as an extreme, it's redeemed, is supposed to be. Like what Parker said, being high makes you more violent. What? No, Parker, you're using logic. It wasn't.
And you're assuming that the high part is true.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because all you're supposed to say is he was on some kind of drug. That's all that matters. The effect of the drug is totally irrelevant in the story. It is irrelevant. We have to give you a reason why we beat your ass like a dog in the middle of the street. 5-on-1.
But they're not talking to us. That's the point.
Yeah. So we have to say he was on drugs. He was it 5 or 6? I think it was 5.
No, it doesn't matter. For them, it's.
But I have to put that number out there because I've got to remember that this man who's high on drugs was launching at several different people trying to get their guns several times over. That he's evading and driving away. We finally got him. He went crazy. He was on drugs. He was trying to go after everybody's gun. And even after the video, my memory is very good about this event. Even after the video, We're going to ignore the video and we're going to go right back to the events before this video, what the video showed. Well, if he didn't run, this wouldn't have happened. Well, if he wasn't high, this wouldn't have happened. Reality speaks that if he wasn't black, this wouldn't have happened.
I mean, it's the continuation of the story. Is what I led into when we were talking in the earlier part of the segment. I really need people to understand they're not talking to us. Whenever these things are happening, they're talking to white women, right? Trying to keep them on the team. This had to happen because he's scary. This happened because he was bigger than your normal man. He was a beast, I tell you. He was like 4 grown men in one person. When that guy murdered Mike Brown, they said he was like the Incredible Hulk. When they murdered, oh man, I don't know how so many names have come through, but it's the gentleman that they murdered in New York with the chokehold and murdered him on video
with the cigarettes.
He was a big man. That is the story they've always used, going all the way to the beginning. And that's why, I mean, they say don't do this, but it's what I do. I tell my children, I tell my nieces and my nephews, the police are your enemy. Period. Point blank. You do not talk to them. You do not try to be friendly with them. You avoid them. If you cannot avoid them, you are to be polite, give them your name, my name, and my phone number. That's it.
Yeah.
People say, well, you're training your children and you're training young people to be adversarial to the police. No, I'm trying to keep my children alive. Because you can't win in the street. There's no way you can fight the police, pardon me, in the streets.
Nope,
unless you're willing to go all out. So that's why, like, when I hear the thing, like what happened here in Atlanta, and they said that protester shot the police first. First thing that came to my mind when they said that was Huey Newton.
Yep.
First thing came to my mind. You say he shot the police officer first. And that's why the police dropped 17 rounds or whatever the number of rounds was in this little skinny man's body. I call bullshit. You need to prove it. Oh, wait, you can't prove it because none of the witnesses will corroborate your story, and your body cams, all of your body cams happen to be turned off. All of them. So anytime the police say something happened, I call bull. They got the same level of responsibility in my book that the other person would have. Whoever you're arresting has to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that it wasn't them. That is how it happened. Well, for me to prove it, be all the way out there. I need it so clear. Ain't nothing I can do but be like, yeah. But I was confused on one thing, Marlon. Didn't they say that the Rodney King thing happened on like March 1st or something like that?
Parker said it, and Lord knows, cause
March 3rd, 1991.
Yeah, so it's like it was before the young lady was murdered.
Yeah, she was murdered before. She's murdered after he got arrested.
Rodney King
it took
happened March 3rd, 1991. The verdict was not until April
April 92 until the next year.
Yeah. So, but it was all continuation. It's all the pressure that builds up. What I would like people to really focus more on is that this is about the oppression and subjugation of an entire people. We are just better treated than our Palestinian cousins. We're allowed. It's all the open air prison, right? It's not as bad as it is for the Palestinians because they're forced to exist in the Stone Ages relative to their oppressor because their apartheid system never got broken up. We are now in a soft apartheid type thing. The official segregation was ended. So we are now able to move amongst each other and amongst everything else so that when it's time to keep us in our place, they can use violence with impunity, with relative impunity. But overall, they don't focus as much on race and they focus more on economics because economics is a great surrogate because you've already pushed us into a position where economics affects roughly 70% of us. And the beautiful thing about making it about economics now is that it affects 70% of us. So the other 30% of us will pretend like it's not happening and turn on our own people because we think we made it. It's amazing what he can do.
Right. The guy didn't mention the important fact that the trial got moved to the suburbs, more white area, to have a different jury that would be more likely to let off the ropes. They said the area in LA where it happened, they didn't want to select the jury from there because these people were, quote, too close to the incident.
Yep.
And the new jury and the cops were innocent.
And it's the prosecutor and the defense attorney both agreed to that with no argument?
Because in America, you don't go up against the police because overall they do a lot of things to help protect you. This is one black man versus a system. Do we give justice to one black man and cause us to have to disrupt a system, or do we protect the system and unfortunately have to sacrifice one black man? That's the math.
Yep.
And let me say this before we go into our second hour thank you, Anna. I love the argument of, but you do understand that they're talking about the cops. You do understand that their lives would never be the same.
Oh, boo.
That they have to live with the understanding that they took a life, and that's something they're gonna have to live with the rest of their lives. And I've always said back to them, it's amazing how you said they have to live, as in they get to live. Doesn't seem that way on the other side.
That's that BS where people think that well, I don't have to get you, gotta get you. No, I won't.
Yeah.
A lot of people with blood on their hands grew old and died. No, I don't. And if they were cold-hearted enough to kill somebody, I don't know how disturbed their sleep is going to be.
Yeah, I think they're good. Sorry. I mean, we're literally, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to go on a tangent. They're literally, I'm not even lying about this. They're literally with cops that was fired for the same reasons. For killing a black person. And they feel so shocked and so disarmed and so disarrayed that they won't go to the next county over to try to get a job.
And get the job.
And get the job. But you're so distraught. Oh, man. This is
the man who murdered the brother here in Atlanta at the Wendy's because he was sleeping in his car. They got his job back because of the technicality. Gave him his job back, gave him his gun back, put him right back on the street.
Right. So distraught. So distraught. All right, everybody. That is our first hour. We need to get into some lighter things, which is funny because I never know if my stuff is gonna be lighter or not. So we're gonna go ahead and take a 3-minute break to reboot and refresh. This was a good first hour.